Okay, so if we were in class, I would involve you in this thought experiment. All right, here's a concept web. What do you know about different kinds of work in England around the turn of the 20th century? Here's a disembedded task. I'm just asking you to say, what is employment in England like from 1890 to 1920? What do you know about the service industries? What do you know about work for men? What do you know about work for women? Go. I'd give you about 5 minutes. Just write down everything you know. Sometimes you would know things, and so, some people feel like, oh, I don't know anything about that time. It's in part to get you into that mindset. But now, if I even just show you this picture, that this does allow us to both address things that you actually do know and things that you might have developed as misconceptions from your knowledge of Mary Poppins. So even starting from Mary Poppins, you could talk about, what do we know about being a nanny? What do we know about industry? What do we know about pollution, the need for chimney sweeps? What do we know about the nature of work? Who goes out into the workforce? Who stays at home? So, even in the songs in Mary Poppins, the roles for men and the work for men that Mr. Banks says, I run my home precisely on schedule. At 6:01, I march through my door. My slippers, sherry, and pipe are due. At 6:02, consistent is the life I lead. So I'm going to sing to you guys. See how awesome this is? This is an online session, but you get all kinds of multiple intelligences going on this week. But then even the kids are involved in talking about what's involved in being a nanny. If you want this choice position, have a cheery disposition, rosy cheeks, no warts, play games all sort. And then, but you also even learn about the suffrage movement, to the goal, even in England, for women's right to vote. So Mrs. Banks down here talks about, we're clearly soldiers in petticoats, dauntless crusaders for women's votes. Though we adore men individually, we agree that as a group they're rather stupid. And she's talking about sister suffragettes. So you could come away from Mary Poppins with even this new vocabulary word of suffragette that you wouldn't have had before this point. So if you start from something that the kids are likely to know about, you could potentially expand from it to maybe even looking closely at Mary Poppins. You could, if you had older children, I'll go out through this for a minute, but if you read actually the opening chapter of Mary Poppins, there's some great satire that the author, P.L. Travers, talks about in terms of work for adults and even the staff that's necessary in the Banks family. So there's somebody to polish your shoes. There's somebody who is taking care of the horses. There's somebody who is cooking. There's somebody who is setting the table. There's all these different roles for adults in this household, even beyond the nanny and the parents and the kids. So there's all kinds of things that you could do pulling out of this fictional book, this novel, to talk about roles like work, economics, history in England in this particular time. So you could even have middle school kids and have them looking at world history in a particular way. I read this book, which I think is excellent, last semester, so I brought it up in class. If you haven't read The Help, it is just fantastic. It's a novel that's based in the early 1960s in the South, and basically is about a young woman who comes home from college, a young white woman who comes home from college to find that her childhood nanny, an African-American woman, has been fired. And she's kind of mystified by this, but she's also been sort of radicalized around issues of race and integration in college. But in the South, where she's grown up, they're not quite there yet. And so the opening... the way that Catherine Stockett structures this book is different chapters that are told from the perspective of the young white woman and different sort of maids and nannies, all of whom are African American in her community, that she comes to write a book with that's called The Help. It just really is a fantastic book, but one of the things that's great is that the opening chapter is from the perspective of this nanny maid about the children who are in her care. So if you were going to talk about even what does it mean to be a parent, What does it mean to be a mother? What does it mean to be a maid? What does it mean to be a nanny? You could talk about these kinds of things. So being a voracious reader is, I think, something that I want to instill in you guys, not only by requiring you to do the literature performances here, but continuing to read for pleasure in your own life, because you can make these kinds of connections for the purpose of your students' learning. So I think that what I want you to think about is that it's not just these themes of just good teaching, as we're thinking about in Chapter 2 in the Maxims, so inclusion, multiculturalism, and so on, but thinking about how does any theme allow us to get these threads of social studies instruction into our classrooms. Politics and government, geography, cultural phenomena, history, anthropology, sociology, and religion. If you're continually saying to yourself, where can I go from this piece? That's going to be the thread that sort of leads you to develop really fantastic learning experiences for your kids. So I'm actually now going to switch over to this is actually, if we were in class, I'd tell you, get up, stretch, we're going to take about a 5-minute break, and then we're going to go into setting up this frame where you can do this kind of integrated learning, but then have it be accessible online, so that at the end of the semester, you can really bookmark each other's work and have access to not only the work that you've done in this class, but potentially 14, 15 other people's work in this class as well. So I'll pause for just a moment.